大家收看。
欢迎收看
上海人人坊。
您还在寻找着理想的室内设计，烦恼着新家的装修，装修价格不透明 ？Move Over 就是开启您梦想家园的那把钥匙。成立于2018年的 Move Over 旨在打造透明化装潢市场，性价比超高的一条龙家居装潢，建立室内设计师平台。平台有超过200个专业设计样本与透明的定价，依照您个人的风格、喜好、预算，打造您的梦想家园。Move Over 创始人 Lina 也在马来西亚装潢业获得了多项大奖与业界的高度认可。室内设计师的伯乐，业主们的快乐，尽在 Move Over ID Choices on the Go。点击以下链接以获知更多详情。
Hi, welcome to Season 10 of Shanghai Talk of Fame. I'm your host, Riping. Joining us today, we have the founder of WinePlug and Vineyard at TTDI, Mr. Joshua Chen. Hi, Joshua.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Well, a brief understanding of your background, you have a very, very interesting and very different upbringing from most people I've met. First of all, I understand that you finished school at a relatively early age. How did that happen?
My parents put me in a homeschool, and what that happened was I didn't really like that homeschool. Okay. So what I did was, full steam ahead, I just skipped a few subjects, what we call as jump classes, they say. Not
Trying to finish as soon as possible.
Correct. So some of my peers, which are 18 years old, they said, hey, if you're ready, you can take the exam, which is IGCSE exam. I'm like, I was 14, I'm like, okay, I'm ready. So I didn't get good results, but I managed to get a credit. And that's how it ended.
Good enough to go into college.
Correct.
Do you see that as an advantage, or you see that as a disadvantage? Because being different, obviously your background is very different from most people.
I would say it's definitely an advantage. Because what I get to see and what I get to experience is very much different from others, right? So what others might experience in a later stage, I could have got there slightly sooner, right? I could achieve failures even more often, because I like failures. So if I am taking failures at 18 or 14, but now I'm taking failures at 14 years old. So instead of taking failures at 18, 19, I'm taking all of the experience, all of the knowledge, compiling them, and probably when I'm 18, I'm still failing, but I have slightly more knowledge, and then currently I'm putting those knowledge to use.
So your teenage years is essentially like a compact crash course.
Yes.
Do you mind tell people how young you are?
This year I'm 24.
24.
Yes.
And how many businesses have you started?
I've started in total 8 businesses, but out of the 8, I would say 5 was not successful. Only 3 remains, which is WinePlug. It is a B2B wine servicing company, which is also Malaysia's first B2B wine servicing company. Another one is HONM. It is a shirt and textile printing company for events. And lastly, it is Vineyard TTDI, which is a newly opened restaurant.
F&B.
F&B.
Backtrack a little bit to your college days, meaning you started some of these businesses while you're still in college.
15, 16.
15, 16.
Around there. Yeah.
Okay. I cannot help, and I'm sure a lot of viewers will be wondering like, he must be from a rich family, the father was supporting him. So how did you end up doing business at the age of 16? Started your own business?
I'm from an okay family. So my father cut my allowance, I think, when I was 15 or before 16.
Okay.
So basically, there's this shoe I really liked. It is by Adidas. Okay. So this shoe that point cost like 300 ringgit. So I really wanted this sneaker, right? So that's where I really learned the concept of money. If you would want something, you need to work for it.
Correct.
Right. So I went on to do my first job. I think it was folding T-shirts at a shop in Sunway Pyramid.
Okay.
Getting paid 4 ringgit 50 cents an hour, stuff like that.
The tough labor.
Yeah. Then I realized that this is not going to work because I have classes and I can only work during the sem breaks, and if I'm not working during the sem breaks, I have no income.
It'll probably take you 3 years before you can buy that pair of sneakers that you want.
Yeah, exactly. One day, 10 hours is 40 ringgit, 45 ringgit.
And you mentioned at that time you didn't get any support from your dad, pretty much. So,
But at the time when I really saved up to 300 ringgit, I did not want to buy the sneaker
why?
because 300 ringgit was so valuable to me.
Yeah, at that time, right?
So I was like, what if I took this 300 ringgit and I made it to 350? That's where I really started my kind of say entrepreneurial mindset or a risk-taking mindset, I would say. I like to always consider myself a businessman compared to an entrepreneur because an entrepreneur takes crazy risk.
Yeah, that's another part I'm interested in. Have you always been such an entrepreneurial person?
In the beginning, yes, but now I prefer to be a bit more of a businessman.
Okay.
Take more calculated risk
Okay.
and invest in the things that it is branded an industry. So as long as it is called an industry, usually there are statistics that show that this works.
There's a little framework, kind of.
Correct. If you say let it be the recycling industry or like even the aircon industry, if it's an industry, it makes money.
Because you set foot in many different industries, well, your college degree, it was in marketing, statistics, as well as international trade,
Yes.
which is very business oriented.
Yes.
Was it intentional?
Yes, because I have a love for physical products. So the first subject, marketing, was for me to be able to retail these products. And statistics is usually very Asian, I think. So everyone gonna take
Yeah,
it.
let's find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and lastly, international trade practice, which is technically the Incoterms. So for example, if you work in the port, in Port Klang or Port Penang or any port, you would have Incoterms with other ports and other traders, and I would like to study that too. So that's why I took that subject.
At first glance, it doesn't seem to have anything to do with vineyard and WinePlug.
Yes.
So why F&B, why wine?
In my journey to search for a product, so I was in search for a product at that time. I believe I was 19, so I didn't have much capital. I probably had 2,000 ringgit. My net worth. One of my friend's father introduced me to his tea collection in his attic, and he told me this tea collection is worth 100,000 ringgit.
Was he doing it as a business or was it just like his hobby?
It was just his hobby.
Okay.
And I'm like, wow. And he told me in a few years' time I can sell this for maybe 120,000 ringgit. I was like, wow. So then I looked into it more, right? But I found out that if I were to do B2B business through tea, it's almost unheard of because most of the tea in Malaysia, they already have big suppliers. Like even Bow Tea is there,
Yeah.
Darling, everything like that.
They do direct with the source, yeah.
Yeah, correct. And if it's Chinese tea, I'm not sure
Okay.
because there's no statistics on it also. So there's a very big risk for me. But then I found this product called wine. So not only does the product increase in value over time, it is also very consumable in the Malaysian market, especially in the cities. So every restaurant, Italian restaurant I go to, usually you see
All
wine.
the fine dine restaurants, yeah.
Even not just fine dine, even like bars.
Yeah, it's getting more and more
Yeah.
available now, right? Especially in KL.
The idea of wine, actually I have this perception of wine. So when was the first time you actually tried wine? I will say this is the story of almost everyone. It is that first wedding you followed your parents to, and what is that Ribena looking drink, and then you
Yeah.
ask your parents when you're like 6 years old, ask your parents, Mom, I want to try that. So when they took the sip, it was like, whoa, terrible. This is like acid or something like that.
You're talking about the red, right?
Correct. So there's a lot of perception in this market, especially among youngsters, that wine is something very complex to drink.
Yeah.
It is not unlike beer or like whiskey or like
Correct.
gin.
It takes
is
a
very
lot
strict
more
to-
knowledge and
Correct.
appreciation, a certain taste to appreciate it.
I came across the same story, but this is my opinion. A lot of my friends said, oh, wine is just very bitter. So you can understand my peers are like 25, 24,
Yeah.
23. So
Youngsters.
they would most likely they would have not even bought a single bottle of wine for themselves.
Probably still a beer drinker.
Yeah, probably still in beer or gin, something like that. So what happened was, during my first year, I was doing market research for wine, so I just sampled some wine myself. And yes, the first bottle of wine I bought was the cheapest one, and it tastes bitter, and that's about it. But then I said, you know what, let's give this another try. I bought another bottle, probably for I think 80 ringgit or 90 ringgit. And like, hey, this is actually not bad. Right? It is, the alcohol is balanced, and then I'm tasting a few different notes on my tongue and my palate, and it's interesting. And then I let my friend try it, and then my friend bought 2 bottles. And if I'm not wrong, it was from Hank's at Jaya Grocer
Okay.
last time. That's when I found out that, hey, not only can I have such an amazing product, but there's room for market education also. Convincing them and educating them about this product of wine. So what do you like when you watch James Bond? Like one sentence. I would like a martini, shaken, not stirred, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So what I would like to see in our generation is also when youngsters or young adults like us, we go to the restaurant and say, hey, I would like to order a bottle of Petrus 2004, decant it half an hour for me and serve at 18 degrees. Imagine going to a restaurant.
Wow, how many people have you met so far have that kind of knowledge?
Only in the later stage in WinePlug, when I start hanging out with sommeliers, I start hanging out with restaurant owners, and so then this is how they would perceive it, right? And then obviously I annoy them. So what I got is I got their phone numbers, and I would take a picture of a bottle and then ask them, hey, what do you think about this? I know the review says it's okay, but what do you think? Is it worth it? So I'll just ask them questions non-stop until they're like...
Because it's very personal.
Yes.
Right. So when you started WinePlug, what was the reception from people around you?
I don't usually talk much about my businesses among my friends or family.
So you just went ahead and do it?
Yes. But I did have a few mentors that I would usually consult. So mentors are actually very good, especially in a young age of doing business, because I do not know about bookkeeping. I do not know what is even a P&L. Like, how do I really do a P&L compared to what I studied in uni?
So meaning to say your mentors, I assume they are much older than you, right?
Yeah, much older. They're like 50 years old, 45 years old.
Okay.
And then they said, hey Josh, you should look into a facility. So when they told me that, I thought, okay, let me go and look into maybe an office or something. No, a bank facility. So I was asking them, what, you want me to buy a bank or something like that?
Yeah, what is facility?
I was like, no, you go Google it. It's like, okay, okay. It's basically a fund that the bank helps SME businesses. So it took me a lot of time, a lot of networking, but at the same time, I learned a lot. Actually, I'm very grateful for all these mentors.
This is the second phase of a crash course in business.
Yeah. For my opinion, don't get the mentors that will sugarcoat it. My mentors will literally just say, this is wrong, this is not the way you do it, redo it or look at it again.
Which would have saved you a lot of...
Correct.
Yeah.
And not only that, and they will tell you why it's wrong in the first place. So that is also very important.
What to avoid.
Yeah.
So Joshua, the wine business survived the last few years.
Yes.
When pretty much the whole world stopped because of COVID. How did you survive?
I wouldn't say we survived. I say we are still surviving.
Still surviving, okay.
We almost went under 4 times, but thanks to my supplier, he was very understanding. So when you do business, it's not just about numbers, it's also about relationship.
Yeah.
Right. So if the relationship, he sees in me vision. So what that means is he sees a future in me. Right. So that's what made him probably root for me and delay my credits a little bit.
Give you a little bit of leeway.
A bit of breathing space.
Yeah.
Because during COVID, you think F&B was bad, think about their suppliers.
Correct.
Yeah, so we are one of them.
What do you see yourself as?
I call myself basically a wine enthusiast, and I like to talk about wine. So if you actually have the time to come to TTDI at Vineyard, and if you say, hey, I've seen you, can you please tell me about this? Oh, I will not tell you about this. I will make you sit down and I will tell you everything about this, you know? So that's about me. So I'm very passionate about wine, and at the same time, I'm very passionate about the industry, and I'm hoping to probably jump into the F&B industry as a player.
Okay. So do you see yourself more an educator or?
I would say yes, because in some stages of WinePlug, I do require to train restaurant staffs or hotel staffs. So at one point, I even trained the Eastin hotel staffs.
When you say train, what do you do to them?
So basically, we have a setup in a table, and then we have all the wines that I supply to the hotel or to the restaurant or to the bar. And I would pour all of the wines, and I would actually, my education is a bit interesting. I would make them tell me what they think about the wine.
Well, like I said earlier, it's very personal. Yeah.
Yes.
Fair enough.
So, and I would teach them how to do a proper pouring. How do you present the glass? How do you serve the glass? And what should you tell the customer before serving the glass? Like, for example, sir, do you want it decanted, or do you want it served as it is, or do you want it slightly more chilled than room temperature? You know, those kind of things. These are the small things that customers do notice, and the restaurant owners also notice. And in that way, because I'm pretty sure you've seen some restaurants where the wines just sit at the rack and it's like there forever. There's no one selling them.
Yeah.
There's no passion about that. So I'm hoping to start a fire in that, you know, start a pulse in restaurant owners, especially Western restaurants, to get their staff trained on wine, especially because it is a very lucrative and profitable product.
What is the biggest challenge so far with WinePlug?
It takes longer to educate someone than to drink a bottle of wine.
True. But to truly appreciate a bottle of wine, you need to know the story behind it.
Correct. And we have so many bottles of wine. We have from so many different countries. We have American, we have Argentinian, we have Chilean, we have French.
And they all have their own characteristic.
Correct. And even in each country have different regions. So if you are to do, like compare it with probably gin or beer. In Malaysia, there's about 7 or 6 types of beers. And most of it is very accessible and everyone knows about it. But for wine, it's different. So I wouldn't say this is an internal issue, but an external issue is, let's just say if you have this bottle of wine called ABC New Zealand wine, you drank it somewhere in the city. So where would you buy that bottle of wine if you want to? You actually have no idea, because there's so many SKUs, there's so many things in the market, there's so much noise.
That's right.
So the time for you to even try all the ABC New Zealand variants, I would say that's also one of the issues where supply.
It's very limited.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, it is very limited. It's not very accessible.
Correct. And hard to find, I would say.
Correct.
Hard to find. But lucky for me is, what educated me about wine is that I have these mentors or sommeliers that actually taught me about all these things. So let's just say a random person will just walk in and buy a bottle of wine and he drinks it at home. Most likely he won't get that type of treatment, or like if you drink it in a bar, he won't get that type of treatment.
Unless they're really passionate about it, they go online, they read about it.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, wine business in Malaysia, at least in Kuala Lumpur, is becoming very competitive. There's a lot of players, and like you said, you know, even with the particular kind of wine, there are many variants.
Correct.
So how do you stand out? Why should we go to WinePlug?
Last year on FHM, Food and Hotel Malaysia Expo, KLCC, we labeled ourselves as Malaysia's first B2B wine servicing company. So have you ever heard of a wine servicing company before?
Not really.
Not really.
Yeah.
So what we do is, we don't just supply the wine to a restaurant or a bar or a hotel. what we do is we come in full team and full effort. We give you a chance to taste any of our SKUs, our wine products. Upon choosing them, we would produce a menu for you. We would train the staff for you. If you need a wine rack, we might actually even build a wine rack for you on our own cost.
Do you do food pairing as well for your customers?
We can. We have, like for example, there's a Japanese restaurant in Kuchai Lama. So what they did with us last month was they have all this new fish coming in, this rare fish coming in. So they passed that menu to us, and we came up with a wine list for that.
How, in the most effective way, would you educate me about wine?
The best way of wine education is to drink it yourself.
Okay.
What I would recommend is, hey, I will send you 2 or 3 types of bottles. You try them, you let me know.
Of different tones, different characters.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's like your suit.
Yeah.
You got to go for a fitting.
True.
You might not know what color you're gonna do. You might not know what kind of lining you're gonna do. But you go for the fitting. You try out different types of material and stuff like that. Okay, this is my size. Then you come back for a second fitting, come back for a third fitting, then you get your suit. So same thing as wine, right? You might not hit jackpot on the first bottle, but the third, fourth, fifth, sixth bottle, suddenly the sixth bottle is something that you like and something that you think that your crowd will like.
I'm sure we all have friends around us that, start talking about wine, how sophisticated it is. But whatever they think is sophisticated may not be my preference. Maybe what I like, Shiraz, may not be like the highest end of it. So what is your stand on that?
Let's just say the simplest way, let's just say for you to go for a wine you like, it is to associate it with the region or the country. So for example, let's just say you have did some wine testings, okay? You tried 10 types of wine and you found that Saint-Emilion from France is very acceptable. So most likely, if you want to explore more, you can just buy other bottles from France, Saint-Emilion.
Okay.
So that's one of the easiest way.
Have you ever had anyone coming to you and say, I want to appear at Das, so what do you recommend?
Okay, the most expensive one.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah,
so we do have a bottle, it's a Petrus Pomero, which costs about 40K. So I mean, you can take one box of that if you want.
Definitely atas, right?
Yeah, definitely atas.
Okay. What is a proper way? Is there a proper way to do wine tasting?
My way of a wine tasting is just a very basic one first, because this is what you do at home, right? So if you have a decanter that is best, or at least get a wine glass, because I can't take it when some of my friends use
whiskey glass to drink wine.
Mugs.
Okay.
To drink wine. I really can't take it. So at least a whiskey glass or a wine glass.
Okay.
If you can, you have a spirit glass or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because the structure of a glass is to decant the wine.
There's a reason why it's designed that way.
Correct. And if you're even more of an expert, you can get a swirl glass. Swirl glass is glasses that has like glass cuttings at the bottom to create more bubbles. So get the glass, chill the wine. If it's red, if it's white, just chill it, because they say serve at room temperature.
That is the argument that most people have is, should we even chill red wine?
If you're living in France,
England or London.
London, it's cooling there.
Yeah.
It's about 18 degrees, 19 degrees. Then,
Which is essentially our refrigerator temperature in Malaysia, right?
Correct. So in Malaysia, it's like 28 degrees. So basically, you're not drinking room at wine temperature. You're basically
The way
drinking,
it should, yes.
you're drinking warm wine almost.
Yeah.
So that's why what I always encourage is, if it's too cold for you, it's fine. So what you do is, the glass is on your palm and you just hold the glass near to your palm, which radiates heat from your hand. So
the $1 million question is, should we even refrigerate our red wine here in Malaysia? There we have it. Okay, now what is your future plan with WinePlug and Vineyard?
For Vineyard, I would like to be more involved in the F&B scene. I want to expand a little bit in the F&B scene
because wine, it go hand in hand with F&B.
Correct.
It goes without saying.
Correct. And also, I've been quite a foodie myself. So I enjoy to see something that I built, and I can probably ask my friends to come over and hang out there. So for WinePlug, I would just say that our final destination for WinePlug is to actually purchase a vineyard.
I was just about to ask you, what is your future expansion plan? Is owning a vineyard part of the plan?
That's definitely part of the plan. That is the plan.
That is the plan. Okay, all right.
Right.
So what do you see achievement as? Do you think you have achieved?
I don't think so. I would say I'm probably 5% there,
So what is 100%?
where I really have a vineyard. And what I can do with a vineyard is I could build 1 or 2 schools to educate people on wine, and I could see my friends or my surrounding community being a little bit more knowledgeable on wine, and being able to import different wines from different country.
Okay.
So for example, do you know in Taiwan they have something called like a papaya wine? It's actually very nice.
Yeah.
It's like a dessert wine.
Yeah.
So something like that. Or
They even have pineapple wine. They have all this strange. Yeah.
Or in Vietnam, there's this very famous red rice wine, something like that. So to me, success is more just on how am I able to develop this industry in a positive way.
And how many years do you think it will take for you to achieve to be there?
At least 1,000.
1,000 years?
Correct.
Okay.
This is a fun fact for you. This is a fun fact for you. If you try 3 different bottles of wine every day, guess how many years will it take you to try it all?
Probably like what you said, 1,000 years.
18,000 years.
18,000 years. Oh my God. Okay.
Yes.
So we wish you the very best of luck, and don't forget, I can so see that one day we're gonna go visit your vineyard in your classic Mercedes convertible. Let's drive it around. All right, then you show us your best wine from your vineyard.
Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
we wish you all the very best, Joshua. Thank you for being on the show. Yeah, I shall see you on the next episode of Shanghai Top of Fame. 本节目非常感谢 Move Over 友情赞助。作为马来西亚第一个经济实惠的室内设计的线上平台 ，Move Over 自2018年成立以来，旨在创造30战略，打造透明化装潢市场，建立室内设计师平台，保障消费者得到品质保证。预知更多的详情，可以浏览 Move Over 官网 moveover.com.my。